Welcome to episode 190.
Man.
Wow, that's crazy. Of the weekly shared security show. And joining me this week is the Han Solo co-host, Kevin Johnson. You like
The
that one?
Han Solo. That's a costume I don't have. I gotta ask. Before we say this, do you subscribe to the theory that Han is the main partner and Chewie is the sidekick, or do you subscribe to the idea that Chewie is the main partner and Han is the sidekick? That Han is basically the dog Chewie saved.
I'm a traditionalist, so I would go with option one.
Okay, then you called me the wrong person, because I totally believe that out of the two of us, you are the primary host and I'm just a sidekick, which would make me Chewbacca. I have the costume. I happen to subscribe.
I could be Han Solo.
Yeah, you would be Han Solo then. I subscribe to the opposite. I totally believe that the whole life debt thing, this is a case of Han saved Chewie's life. The same way, you see the videos where like the pit bull runs out and saves the little girl.
Yes.
That little girl is going to raise that pit bull forever. That's what I think happened. Chewie thinks Han is a puppy.
That actually makes sense.
It does.
Even that Chewbacca is really, really tall and much more powerful than Han Solo.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's an interesting philosophical Star Wars debate. That
you got to have them.
Yeah, you do.
Star Wars is Sith.
But today we'll get into a little more cybersecurity. And
probably a good idea.
Yes, and this first story, another one that kind of makes me laugh a bit, but ProtonMail is in the news, which they tout that they have the most secure encrypted email service that you can sign up for. In fact, they've been kind of chastised for some of their marketing because of a recent incident where the Swiss, I believe it was the Swiss government, basically sent, kind of like in the U.S. where they send a court order to get a person's IP address. It was this French climate activist. I don't know all the details of why the Swiss are involved, but regardless, they did give IP address information of this individual, and that's causing a huge firestorm in the privacy community, kind of targeting ProtonMail that, you tout that you don't have logs, you don't have information about your subscribers, yet here we are giving away information about their subscribers.
Can I just point out that this is proof that the people that are railing about ProtonMail saying they don't log IP addresses and then being able to give an IP address is either people who don't read, or people who are ignorant, or people who just like yelling.
Or people that don't understand how email works.
So here's my thing. ProtonMail has never hidden the fact that they are capable of logging IP addresses.
Yeah.
And if you read their privacy documentation, which I would assume if you were a privacy advocate, you would read the privacy documentation. This isn't did you not read the EULA? This is literally their question and answer system. Their frequently asked questions about privacy. They talk about the fact that if they get a Swiss court order, they will have to turn on logging. They have no choice. It's the only information they'll grab because they don't have any of the other information. And oh, by the way, they'll notify you if they do it, recognizing the fact that because they have no other information about you, the only way to find out that they turned on logging was to log in to the system and get the email that said they turned on logging. Now, yes, the court could prevent them from doing that, but...
Now, was that privacy policy updated after this incident or before?
It's been the way it's been the whole time.
Really? Interesting.
They took where people are complaining, and this to me is just people being...
Right.
Jackholes.
Being people, yes.
They, in their website, one of their marketing claims, like we don't log IPs, they removed that sentence.
Yep.
Their documentation has always said that a court order can turn on logging. As a matter of fact, not only does their documentation say that, but their documentation also tells you how to use their other free service, which would hide your IP address.
That's right.
At least to the level that they would say, we can't turn that over to the courthouse. We can talk about exploits and other leakages and stuff like that. But in my opinion, and I want to be very clear, I don't use ProtonMail. I have no skin in the game here. This is, I don't want to say fake outrage. I want to say that it's incorrect outrage. And, on top of that, we can talk about the fact that, let's be clear. If you've got stuff that you're worried about people seeing, why the hell are you emailing it?
You probably shouldn't be using email in general. That's right.
Yeah. L Armageddon on Twitter, and I don't know their real name. Maybe it's L, maybe it's not, right? They said, they tweeted out a really great thread, in my opinion, where they talked about if you're worried about privacy, use Gmail. And that sounds like a what? You're like,
wait a minute, Google.
This is nuts. But their point is really, really good. They say, if you're worried about privacy, if you're worried about the sensitivity of the information, the things like that, you shouldn't be using email. And if you're using email, you need to remember that it's not private. And so by using Gmail, you won't fool yourself into thinking, and they use Gmail as the example, right? That you're not fooling yourself. There's this false sense of security, false sense of privacy that, I'm using ProtonMail, nobody can figure out who I am, it'll never happen. That's bogus. And let's be very clear, ProtonMail themselves never claimed that, right? So it's kind of like, and I'm gonna regret using this example. It's the people suing Tesla for not having full self-driving. They've never claimed, yes, we can say Elon Musk tweets ridiculous stuff out, or
all the time,
right? But if you paid, and when I paid for it, it was $10,000. If you pay $10K for a feature, and you don't read the blurb that tells you what it is, you either have more money than you know what to do with, in which case, hire Secure Ideas, or you're an idiot. And it's the same thing here with ProtonMail. If you're really worried about privacy and you use ProtonMail and did not read all the information about what they do, this goes back to the whole thing, right? The dumb criminals get caught. And I know a little bit about what they were charged with. I, like you, don't understand how it went from the French courts to Swiss courts. The only thing I can come up with is Swiss cheese is halfway decent and the French food uses cheese. I don't know. That probably isn't a good example. They were charged, the activists I were charged with breaking and entering, squatting in houses, stuff like that. They were occupying an area. Somehow that escalated. What I'd like to know is, and it's none of my dang business, but the Swiss courts say they'll only put an order out for this for serious crimes. And I don't, from everything I've read, I don't see how this qualifies as a serious crime. Now, I will admit that this is coming from a U.S.-based First Amendment perspective. I don't think very many protest activities should be considered serious crimes. But we can argue whether or not this was a protest or somebody just living in an apartment or something. I don't know.
Yeah. What caused it all is kind of, irrelevant, but it's more about, is ProtonMail really guilty here? And essentially I go back to, a court order. I mean, any VPN service that you use, or email service that touts a certain level of privacy, they're all going to fold as soon as they get the court order.
Well, no, I do want to I want to qualify that. ProtonMail released out that, I don't remember.
They do have a transparency report. Yes, they do fight.
And they actually fight the court orders very often. It's
They just can't fight the Swiss.
Right, because that's where they're based.
Yeah. Yeah,
And the
because they
law
have to be
says,
like 15 miles offshore in international waters or something
yeah,
crazy.
it's funny. I've always thought that was 50 miles.
Yeah, I don't know where they get the
Um,
15 at. Yeah, I thought you were right. Yeah, 50.
yeah, but I looked it up.
Whatever.
It's 15. It's not
Yeah.
50.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. Some countries declare bigger area. I don't know, whatever.
Hmm.
But yeah, they're based in Switzerland. Like they have to
Yeah,
follow the court order, or they need to fight it. And there's a level of
that's right.
fighting that I don't know. I I don't use ProtonMail. I never considered ProtonMail super private. So this is what are you all whining about? To me,
Right.
I get the concern. I
Yeah.
get the anger about the details being released, but at the same point, how many of you people complaining about ProtonMail releasing it were donating to ProtonMail's legal fund to fight it?
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Are you looking for the very best products to protect your digital privacy? Well, Silent Pocket has everything you need with their patented product line of high-quality Faraday bags, backpacks, clutches, and wallets. Visit silentpocket.com today and receive 10% off your order by using discount code SHAREDSECURITY.
You want your organization to be secure and compliant and to have a healthy culture. But your employees' lack of awareness makes you vulnerable to data theft, fraud, and compliance penalties. It's frustrating that the boring, static training content that's being used today has failed to improve employees' ability to defend against cyber attacks. At ClickArmor, we know that without using gamification, it's extremely hard to get staff to understand how to avoid threats. Our gamified simulations and challenges have provided a 50% average improvement in thousands of employees' ability to spot phishing threats. Go to clickarmor.ca/sharedsecurity to get your free gamified phishing assessment for up to 500 employees. You'll see quickly how gamified simulations can help your team be more resilient and compliant and help avoid costly ransomware and fraud incidents. Let ClickArmor help you go from being an underappreciated, stressed out fall guy to being an innovative leader who's the catalyst for greater productivity in your organization.
So the second story here, there was, this is kind of a short little story about disinformation and how people can assume things based on a post on Twitter. But essentially, there was a tweet that went out from an ER doctor saying, "Hey, I just left the ER. We're officially back to getting crushed by COVID-19. Blah, blah, blah. You know, all the people that are in the hospital are unvaccinated, so on and so on." Right.
Yeah.
So there was this claim made that that tweet was actually part of a fake bot campaign because there was all these accounts that had this same tweet, and some of them were actually slightly modified. One of them, instead of the Delta variant, they put some other crazy name of this new variant, and then that spread like wildfire, of course, virally on Twitter. But what actually happened here, and the AP actually did a kind of an assessment on this whole situation and found that the original tweet was actually legitimate from a real ER doctor, and there were no bots involved. It was people taking this tweet and then making changes to it in a campaign to kind of spread disinformation about COVID-19. I don't know, Kevin. What do you think about this? This is kind of fascinating.
I want to clarify right from the beginning that the ER doctor is from Jacksonville, which is not a sign of it being me.
Right.
So I think this is actually deeper.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because in my opinion, from what I read, this wasn't just people copied it. This was an active effort to spread it as if it was a viral tweet to make it look like a bot to discredit it.
Yes.
It was anti-vaxxers copying the text, changing the text minorly, and then retweeting it. This was a manual effort that was coordinated to what's the word? Not
disenfranchise.
But basically make it seem like it was a bot. Like
Yep. Which we all assume.
Yeah. And that to me is worse. This is like, here we have people who I don't believe that anybody is unaware of my belief that if you are an anti-vaxxer, you are a waste of carbon. And there is so much oxygen that we could have if you were just gone. But these scum of the earth anti-vaxxers are actively trying to discourage, discredit. I don't know why discredit was the word I was struggling with so bad. But these scumbags are using a technique to discredit, and what's worse, it worked.
Yeah.
Right? Here's a doctor who is just expressing frustration, expressing the end of his day. Look, I'm kicking my butt trying to get this stuff, and you jackasses, excuse me. No, not excuse me. They are jackasses. Just awful. And it worked. And the people who should know better talked about it as, oh, look, it was an activity of bots. It was this. No, it wasn't. And we can look at the engagement. We can look at how it went across, and we can see that it is unlikely to be bots.
Yeah.
And then, according to the articles I was reading, I'm sure you'll link them in the show notes because you do way more work on this podcast than anybody else. Just we recognize that. That they actually talked to people who tweeted it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we did this. Like, hey, yeah, we want to make him look like a jerk."
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Here's my answer. Screw you, people. It's awful. It's awful.
It is awful. What really worries me, this is just one example, but this is happening all the time, and we don't even know what's going on, because as you scroll, or doom scroll, as they say, through Twitter and Facebook and all this, we're taking in all this information, and this is the big problem, right? We believe these things to be facts. When we see something on a social network, no one really takes the time to fact check or to do this level of analysis, right? Who's going to spend the time to, kind of trace all these accounts and things like that? Like, nobody's got that time, especially when you're scrolling. So this is just a big, big issue of, how misinformation like this, disinformation, can spread so quickly on a social network to, for anything. You can take any topic you want, politics aside, and spread information this way. And you don't need bots necessarily to do it.
Well, and to me, what surprises me is how few Twitter accounts did it that triggered this must be a bot. Like, man, I would have expected that to take way more effort. I was wrong. That's what blew my mind, is how trivially easy it was to take a legitimate tweet from a doctor that, as far as I know, I live here in Jacksonville. I didn't know who he was. I had to look him up, right? He was just a guy that was complaining about his day and the damage, right? And it got twisted and turned around to make him look like this evil bot that's trying to spread disinformation and force us to get the 5G tracking chips injected.
So
I feel stupid even saying that.
I know. So speaking of real bots,
I like bots.
So we'll end our podcast with this kind of fun story. EFF had posted about something called
fun, but okay.
Mobile Correctional Facility Robots. Apparently there is a company that does a lot of work with prisons called Securus, and they just filed a patent application for these prison type robots that have capabilities with electric shock weapons, rubber projectile guns, gas. They can actually physically, they have probably mechanical batons and all these other things to replace, correctional officers in prison systems. And of course, there was a screenshot of, Doctor Who and all our favorite characters. But I don't know. This is do we support our robot overlords here? And is this the future of,
I always support my robot overlords.
Law enforcement?
So I'm twisted on this one. right off the bat, and I don't want to get political. Okay, I'm political. I know. I have issues.
Every show like that.
I know we do. Like we need to change the name of the tool.
But these stories are so fun.
The not political show that is, and I like right off the bat, I have an issue with private prisons, and the the fact that we can have a discussion about the profit margins of incarcerating people.
Oh my gosh, that's a whole other
so I just want to throw that out. That bothers me. If we're going to have prisons, and we are going to have prisons that put people in that are dangerous, and I like the idea of reducing the risk to the non-incarcerated people. I'd like to reduce the risk for everybody, but I like the idea of, okay, we have a robot that's going to deliver lunches, that's going to deliver mail, that's going to do this. The minute you cross into it's got a shock baton and it's going to use AI to determine if that person with facial recognition that has been proven not to do well with minorities, and it's going to shock them if it thinks what the hell were you like? You just went right off the deep end.
Exterminate.
Right? Exactly. Like you took something that I could totally support. Let's not have people put into semi-dangerous or actually dangerous situations. I like that. I'm really cool with bomb disposal robots, right? Yes, there's a bomb. Take the robot to handle it, right? But man, this company just and let's be very clear right off the bat, I probably don't like the company anyways because of the rest of the stuff you talked about. But man, this went off the rails quickly reading that patent. Oh yeah, you know what else we could do? We could just shoot them. Let's just put no problem at all. We'll yeah, that's a great idea. Let's just shock everybody. Here's what we need to do. We need to make sure that all the bars are connected. And then you don't need a robot. You just tell the people that are misbehaving or doing the wrong thing or the bad thing to grab the bar. And then you just send electrical current through the whole thing. It's done. It's cheap. Right? You shocked them. I don't mean kill them. Right? Just, we don't have to tase them. We can just electrify the entire prison. If you said that to people would be horrified. But you say to them, oh no, it's okay. It's an AI-driven robot. It'll be fine. And we already know that just means PowerPoint. So machine learning is Python, AI is PowerPoint. We all know that.
There you have it, folks.
This one is bad.
It is. Well, the next thing you're going to tell me is a Secure Ideas is a side business venture to get into prison management.
No, we don't. No, we don't. Oh,
thank God.
I just imagine that. Yeah, we're going to start managing a prison. It'll be fine.
That's right. Well, with that, we'll end on that note. Something for our listeners to simmer on. But yes. But thank you again, Kevin, for coming on the show this week. And
thanks for having me.
Next week we'll have Scott back, and hopefully Scott will be animated this time, because if you saw last week's video with Raph, I just put in a still image of him the entire podcast. So it was. We'll get him animated next time. Yeah.
He was having trouble.
Yeah. So, all right, everyone. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you all next week. That's all for this week's show. Be sure to follow the Shared Security Show on Twitter and Instagram for the latest news and show updates. If you like this episode, please hit that like and subscribe button, and please subscribe to us on your favorite podcast listening app. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week for another episode of the Shared Security Show.